When I made my cleaning the throttle body video for the Trailblazers, I didn't really go into detail about why I did not disconnect the battery. If you watch the video, you notice that I pulled out the fuses for the PCM. The reason I did that was to reset the PCM without disconnecting the battery. A few people have asked me, why don't you disconnect the battery in these trucks? And this video is going to address that. So there's really 4 reasons why I don't disconnect the battery in the Trailblazers at least. The first one is when you disconnect the battery, hook it back up, that's when you run into the idle issues, especially with the AC on. You can get the rough idle with the air on, or even stalling with the AC on, and it's not really, you know, the throttle body's dirty, but it could have been dirty for thousands of miles leading up to, you know, when the battery was disconnected. So it leads to more work in some cases. Number 2 is the HVAC actuators. Basically, behind the dashboard, there's 5 motors that control different things, you know, for your heating and air conditioning. And it seems like on the older ones like this 03 that the one that does the floor and the vent door is the one that is more than likely to crap out. Although there have been posts and stuff about, you know, different ones. But the result's the same. You disconnect the battery, you hook it back up. This HVAC controller right here makes those motors go through a sweep. And from my understanding, it's not nice when it makes them sweep. It basically slams them full open and full shut. And that can break, you know, in some cases, an actuator. Now for me, you know, what sucks is, you know, let's just say I put in a starter in one of these and I had to disconnect the battery. So, guy's gonna pay me to put a starter in one of these trucks. You know what I mean? I disconnect the battery, put the starter in, no big deal, hook the battery back up, and then one of those actuators breaks. Now I've got to call the guy back up and say, look, you know, hook the battery back up. Now your heater doesn't blow through the vents. You know, that sucks. You know, and I hate doing stuff like that. And the worst part about that is I know better, because I know that there's a good chance that that'll break. The third reason why I don't disconnect the battery is the OBD2 monitors. For whatever reason, it just seems that when the battery's disconnected, hooked back up, and it's going through, you know, running the OBD2 monitor checks, misfire is more, you know, particular. I don't know what it is. You know, the truck could be running perfect. You disconnect the battery, you hook it back up. Now it's going to throw like a PO300 or, you know, a single cylinder misfire, even though the truck might not, you know, feel like it has a miss. I don't have an explanation for it. Number 4, this goes for any vehicle. You know, vehicles like this, you know, it's got aftermarket radio, it's got a remote starter, it's got interfaces. When you disconnect the battery, in a lot of cases, you have to reset all that crap. And then there's reason number 5. You have to reset the clock, you know, and that sucks. Nobody wants to reset the clock. I mean, we're not having that. So there you got 5 reasons right there as to why I'm not going to disconnect the battery in any Trailblazer that I work on. And if you don't believe it, well, watch this shit. A couple weeks ago, my buddy came up, he wanted some power wires upgraded, and that involved disconnecting the battery. So I'm going to roll some footage so you guys can see what I do when I'm working on somebody else's Trailblazer and I have to disconnect the battery. Alright, so we're here today with Big Black here. Big Black's getting a charging system upgrade for the, you know, part of the big 3. Something I've talked about before but never really went too in depth on is disconnecting a battery in the Trailblazer. So what I've got here is what's called a computer memory saver. And what it's going to allow us to do is to keep power to like the computers and stuff while we have the battery disconnected. It has a double-sided cigarette lighter end, like that. I'm going to plug one end into the cigarette lighter that's hot at all times, which is the one on the left. I'm going to plug my other end into the tool. Turn the tool on. And now I can safely disconnect the battery. So we've had the battery disconnected, we made a couple changes. I don't know if you can see that, but it's still got the correct date and time. So there you have it, you know. Everything was just the way it was before we did any of the work with the battery wires. It was no big deal. Seen the head unit pop back on, time was right, all the settings were right. You know, some vehicles have those super fancy EQs and stuff. So about these actuators, let's talk a little bit about these actuators a little bit more. I'm going to take the camera and go down here and just give you a little overview. Really, you can only see one with just this lower trim panel underneath the driver's side of the dash removed. It's not very descriptive. I'm not tearing my whole dash apart to show you guys this, but it'll just at least give you a little bit of insight. I don't know if you guys can see this thing right here. This is one of the actuators. This is for the driver's temperature, but there's actually 4 more of these tucked up in there in various places. I can't even see the one that fails the most from here. So like this duct and some other crap's got to come off to get to it. So they're not hard to do, they're just hard to get to. So that's it. I mean, they're, I don't know, I think they're like $60 or $70 each. And you know, like I said, the one that breaks the most, well, the one that's been reported to break the most is the one for the vent and the floor. I mean, for me, myself, I mean, I've been working on cars since, you know, before Wu-Tang had that double CD back in the day. Yeah, that one. I have no problem reaching my hand up way back in the dash and doing any of those actuators crap, you know. But I don't think people at home, you know what I mean, I don't think the majority of people at home can do that. So it's better for me to say, look, pull out these fuses, don't disconnect the battery, don't risk anything else, you know, happening in the truck, you know what I'm saying? You'll be all right. You know, what's funny is that some people have watched that video and, you know, they want to argue it and say, you don't need to pull fuses, you just need to disconnect the battery. Well, you guys are fucking idiots and y'all need to get with the times, because when you're pulling the fuses to the PCM, you're doing the same fucking thing. You know what I mean? Well, the one guy was like, you know, I don't care what the guy in the video said, you know, like I'm just some guy in some video. You know what I mean? I'm not some guy in some video. I got the biggest Trailblazer channel on YouTube right now, and shit's only getting bigger because coming up, you know, we got the blower doesn't work on 5. We're going to show you guys how to test and fix that. We're not throwing parts at nothing. We're going to test the shit first, you know what I mean? We're going to put a fuel pump in this fucking truck. We're going to do part 2 of the fuel pump wiring test, where we actually test the wiring from the fuel pump relay back to the pump itself. We got some clunks over bumps, which I'm sure a lot of you guys with Trailblazers have gone through at least 5 times in your life. And we're going to cover one of the most frequent causes of that, and we're going to fix it. And we got some other good shit coming up, you know what I mean? So when someone says that I'm just some guy on the video, you know, go fuck yourself, pal. You know what I'm saying? And just so y'all know, this is June 27th. This is the day that that bullshit Facebook picture went around with the fake Back to the Future photo of the DeLorean, when they said, oh, they set the clock to June 27th, 2012. And there's a thread on Trailboy where someone had disconnected the battery and the mode actuator broke as a result of it. So this problem is happening. So yeah, I'm not going to pitch, you know, you guys definitely have to buy a memory saver, but it's just something to think about, because there are side effects to doing something simple like disconnecting the battery. Anybody that's read a Haynes or Chilton's book knows that the first step to doing any job in the car is to disconnect the battery. I hope this clears up some stuff about why we won't be disconnecting the battery on these trucks. You know, like I said, stay tuned because we got a lot of shit coming. So if you like what you see, subscribe,